Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. There are moderate Mrs. Suharnis, MPD, and my beloved friends. Alright everyone, on this occasion I will present my journal entitled The Importance of Vocabulary in Language Teaching, Learning and How to Be Taught. Before I continue my presentation, let me introduce myself first. My name is Atika Maulana, NPM 190400003. Alright, let's move on to our discussion. The main topics of this presentation are: 1. The importance of vocabulary, teaching vocabulary, vocabulary mastery, the techniques in teaching vocabulary, and vocabulary learning strategies. Let's go into the first discussion, namely the importance of learning vocabulary. Okay, before we move on to the material, I will first explain the problems faced in learning vocabulary, namely that many teachers are not sure about practice best at teaching vocabulary and sometimes don't know where to start establish an instructional emphasis on word learning. Vocabulary learning is an important part of learning of foreign language because its meaning new words are emphasized very often both in books and in class. It is also the center language teaching and very important for language learning. Okay, next material, the importance of learning vocabulary. Here we can see that vocabulary is very important for us to learn. Vocabulary knowledge is often viewed as a critical tool for second language learners because unlimited vocabulary in a second language impedes successful communication. The importance of vocabulary is demonstrably and out the school. In classroom, the achieving students possess the most sufficient vocabulary. So vocabulary is very important for us to learn. By studying vocabulary, we can know the words that come out. Without a broad vocabulary, we don't will be able to use the structures and functions we may have learned. We have the meaning learn to understandable communication in production when we have the meaning or concept we want to express. We need to have a store of words from which we can choose to express this meaning or concept. We can see that many students have problems in learning vocabulary, and therefore that they spend a lot of time memorizing lists of words. As a result, language teacher and applied linguists know general recognize the importance of vocabulary learning and look for ways to promote it more effectively. And next material, teaching vocabulary. Here we can see that teaching vocabulary is one of the most discussed in teaching English as foreign language. When the learning process teaching progress, problems will arise in the teacher. They have a problem how to teach students to get the satisfactory result. The teachers must prepare and know the right techniques which will be applied to students. A good teacher must prepare himself with various techniques and up to date. Teachers must be able to master the material so that it can be understood by students, make them interested and happy in the teaching and learning process in the classroom. We can pay us in teaching vocabulary. Vocabulary teaching might be problematic because many teachers are unsure about best practice in teaching vocabulary and sometimes don't know where to start to from a basis instructional on word learning. So teaching words is a very important aspect in learning of language. Okay, next material, vocabulary mastery. Vocabulary is crucial to be mastered by the learned. Vocabulary mastery is needed to express our ideas and to be able to understand other people's sayings. According to Webster, vocabulary mastery refers to the great skill in processing words of a language. It is an individual achievement and precision. For that reason, the major responsibility in increasing the knowledge is in the individual himself. The success in widening the vocabulary mastery requires their own motivation and interest on the words of a language. So, vocabulary mastery is individual great skill in using the words of a language which obtained based on their own interests and motivational needs. Mastery vocabulary plays an important role in the four language skill and must be it should be noted the vocabulary mastery is one of the most important language components needed. Okay, next material, the techniques in teaching vocabulary. Commonly, there are several techniques concerning the teaching of vocabulary. However, there are a few things that have to be remembered by most English teachers if they want to present a new vocabulary or lexical items to their students. It means that the English teacher wants students to remember new vocabulary. Then it needs to be learned, practiced, and revised to prevent students from forgetting. Techniques employed by teachers depend on some factors, such as the content, time availability, and it is valued for the learners. This makes teachers have some reason in employing certain techniques in presenting vocabulary. In presenting one plain vocabulary item, the teacher usually combines more than one technique. Instead of employing one single technique, and teachers furthermore are suggested to employ plain vocabulary presentation as various as possible. Okay, next material, vocabulary learning strategies. Strategies that we can do in learning vocabulary are the first, using from contents, the second, using word pairs and mnemonic techniques to remember words, and the last, using vocabulary cards to remember foreign language phrases, language word pairs. Based on the techniques used to present new vocabulary and strategy vocabulary learning, Experts suggest more techniques that claim to help students to learn vocabulary in an easier way. Finally, the teacher can encourage students to keep a vocabulary notebook because a lot of vocabulary growth is ultimately up to the learned. The way I have students who are successful vocabulary language learners share the book's method, their notes. For students who need help, they can demonstrate how to prepare and need an organized vocabulary notebook in a way that will facilitate the retrieval of a few words. If the notebook is not well regulated, the learns the time not to practice words with the word and the purpose of keeping a notebook in the first place. And next, conclusion. This page of work aims to highlight the importance of vocabulary learning as an essential part in foreign language learning, although it has been neglected for many decades. During the 18th, it became a hot topic for researchers. Lexical knowledge is central to communicative competence and to the acquisition of a second or foreign language, and a lack of vocabulary knowledge is an obstacle to learning. An attempt is more to review the trends in the area to teaching vocabulary through various techniques. E is as all, E if all. Teacher use when teaching. Before presenting the meaning or from vocabulary items, teacher needs to know the type of the vocabulary, the student level and characteristics, and also the value of the techniques for the learners. Okay, maybe that's all the seminar material I can convey. If there are mistakes, please forgive me. Thank you. Thank you.